Welcome back.
No.
Welcome back. Welcome
Hello,
to another episode.
and welcome to another episode of Millennial Moms Unfiltered. Today we're going to be talking about alternative living. What does that mean? That means anything that's not the norm. And we've had several ideas about alternative living, so without further ado, let's get into it. So, this was never on my list of episodes to do, but it came up on a web search of mine. What topics should I do? Because I wasn't vibing with any of the topics I had written down, and I was like, I have a lot of these. So, what about you? I feel like you've had ideas about
alternative ways of living.
And this can be basic, like from in the house you're already in to like completely selling everything you have and starting over again. And I have all kinds of different levels of alternative.
So it depends
livings.
on my mood. I mean, Pat and I have talked about like tiny house living. I don't think that we could actually do it with kids.
Yeah, me either.
I just don't. Some people are fine with that. The not having the privacy.
I think I'm already in the tiniest house that I could possibly be in. And we're not thriving in that environment, particularly because Gio works at home. I work at home. Like, Eden is going to be 12, and he still technically shares a room with the two littles, even though everyone's really in my bed. But, like, especially Eli right now, he's like, I have no place. Like, Eden doesn't want him in the room when he's there doing his computer stuff. Like, he feels really misplaced. So I'm like, if we got any smaller of a house...
I love the idea of living more modestly, less stuff, like consumerism of it all. I love the idea of that, but I just know that it wouldn't be realistic for me and my family, especially at this stage in our lives. But I also feel like there's something about I grew up without my parents didn't own a house, so we moved around a lot, and we lived in apartments, and there's something about having like a home to go home to when you're an adult. Like the house that my mom owns now is not the house I grew up in,
right? So
like, even though I know it's my mom's house, like I don't have a bedroom there, like I didn't,
right?
And it's just something about
very old school.
It's so old school, like, and I feel like I want to be able to have a home that like my adult children can come home to.
Like, my parents owned a home because my parents didn't have me until my mom was 36 and my dad was almost 40, you know? So they were from that like time, like they got married in the 80s, so like houses were like 13 cents. And it was like,
yes,
everybody
true.
From that era, like I feel like owned a house because
they did.
It was so
my parents were only 18 when they had me, so they weren't buying a house.
That, and like they're like not even at like the tail end of that, right? Like,
right.
And I feel like the housing market got brutal not too far after that. So I feel like if my parents were from a different time, then I wouldn't have had that either. But
yeah, so we didn't. So my parents were only 18 when they had me, and we jumped around like from apartment to apartment because they were so young, and it wasn't realistic at the time. And I know that's so stupid. Like, you shouldn't be buying your house for like your adult children, but like, I don't know. I just want my kids to grow up in the same house. Like, right. There's that too. Like, I want them to like, I don't know, always have a place to come home to if they need to. But like, that's again. It's just the way I already have
this house. This is what I like, in addition to having a tiny home, but the minimalist thought behind it. Like, okay, so I couldn't do like a tiny home, but I'm like, I could do like an eco-friendly home, and I thought about that too. Yeah. Doing like, I don't know, I've watched some crazy things like inside like gardens with all of your things, and then like the rainwater, like. Like, there's just so many things. I'm like, oh, I have no fucking idea about that, but that sounds nice too. But am I really that kind of chick? No. Those are fleeting, like, I'm not going to keep up with that. Like, I've thought of, like, I think we want to buy land this was when we were going to move to Texas. That was the allure of it, is that we would have like kind of free reign to design our own house. I think we want to buy land and then build. And I was like, well, so what are we going to do? Like live in a trailer in on site? And he's like, no. And I was like, but then I could like get the cattle ready. And he's like, what the
cattle
fuck are you talking about? And I'm like how much land though? Like, is it gonna, can we like
see?
And he's like, we're not buying a farm.
That
right?
I do want a farm.
But that's like where my mind
living.
goes. But I'm like, okay, no, like a lot of land.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of land, build a house. And like, he's like, we can have like some chickens and stuff, but I'm not
trying to be a farmer.
Buying, like 100 acres and
100-acre woods. No, that's my dream. My dream is to have a family fucking compound, like a big plot of land, and have like my mom have a house, my siblings and their significant others and their families, and my dad, and like I would love everybody to have their own house on the land, and we'd all take care of the farm, and we'd like get our food from the farm.
Yeah, Little House on the Prairie style.
Yes,
I feel like in theory that sounds good, and on paper it looks good, but I'm like, I don't want anybody in my space.
They don't have to be in your space. You have your own house.
My mother-in-law keeps rolling around the idea of get a house with an in-law. And I'm like, Elba, I want to remind you to the beginning of this relationship when we all lived together and how horribly that went.
Yeah.
I definitely think we're space kind of people.
We are too. Pat and I come from a big family, and like we love to be around family, but we are probably like Pat gets overwhelmed because my family is bigger and closer than his is.
Yeah.
And he gets like, can we just not do anything with anyone other than the four of us today?
I didn't have like a huge family, so it's like exciting to be able to go to these big family parties and stuff like that. And like that's kind of where it ends for me. Like I don't. Yeah,
I want to be able to go home.
Yeah, I don't want to live in the same. I don't want to drive up the same driveway as you. You know.
See, I don't mind that. So like my dad lived with us for 8 months, and like he was fine. It was temporary, and like it wasn't a big deal. He lived in our we have a finished basement, and he lived down there for a little while, and it wasn't a big deal. And I definitely, like, if you know, considering the circumstances, is fine. But I don't think I'd want to do like the in-law thing unless I had to. Like my parents are both so young right now, so. But it was like a matter of like taking care of one of my parents when they're older. But like right now, that's not an issue. They're not there at all.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of families are doing like more communal living now, just because the prices of houses are so insane that people are like, parents are selling their homes and moving in with their kids and helping take care of the grandkids, and like that seems great for a lot of people.
That like where the ages my kids are at right now, and like the kind of care like Eden needs and stuff, I think having outside help would be hurtful more than it would be helpful. Right. And I just, for me, at where we're at right now, it doesn't sound like,
I totally get it. Doesn't appeal to me either.
I like the idea of like, and we've talked about with like his cousins and stuff, like all going in, buying however much, building houses and all that. But I'm like, I don't know how much I could really rely on other people to like
pay the bills.
No, not pay the bills, but like if we wanted to do the whole like feed animals farm thing. And
yeah,
you know.
So my sister is marrying her fiance. They're getting married this year. He and Patrick are best friends. They grew up together. They've known each other since they were kids. And like I could totally see them like being farm hands. Like I could totally like, it would be my dream of like they would just run the farm together, and my sister and I would learn how to make sourdough. I'll be like Little House on the Prairie.
I feel like I start like in my mind, I build these really like grandiose plans, and it takes me a while before I'm like, can I keep up with that? And I start getting nervous because it's like I would sell my current everything and just like fuck it. And then like 9 minutes into the situation, I'd be like,
what have I done?
I don't think this is for me. And I think that's why I'm nervous about, you know, buying a house and committing to something, because I'm like,
it's scary. It's super scary.
I change my mind so fast So I'm like,
well, we got this house.
I mean, I think that's also why I'm not buying a farm, you know?
Right. Well, we bought this house because, I mean, I love this house, but like I wanted, and so did Pat, we did not want like a split level or a raised ranch. We preferred like the living space to be on the first floor and then the bedrooms to be on the second floor. Like that was, and we knew that we wanted something with character. So we bought an old house. My house is going to be 100 years old in a few years.
That's so cool.
And buying an old house, man, like
I know, but
you think you want it and then you realize how much work actually needs to be done. And you're like, oh shit.
Especially with depending on like the materials it was built with initially and upgrades that have already been in place,
and they're half-assed upgrades, so you have to like go back and redo them. Every wall in my house is horsehair plaster, and if there's not, and they're all textured, and if it's not the actual exposed plaster wall, it's wallpaper that's also textured. Like this is wallpaper that is textured wallpaper, and it's over the horsehair plaster.
That was and like risk to paint that.
Well, it was already painted. It was already painted, so I just painted over it because
I can't even I didn't even realize that was textured.
Yeah, removing the wallpaper, my walls would just fucking crumble because it's horsehair plaster.
Yep.
And they were already painted over, which is even harder to remove. And so it's just like there's a lot of stuff like that, and unless I'm like willing to invest the time and money to re-drywall my entire house, which I like is just not feasible right now, I have to live with it, which is fine. But like you don't think, like when we first saw this house, we're like, oh, it's fine, we'll live with it. But then like I have like holes in my wall up the stairs because it's plaster and it's like crumbling, and we have to keep repairing it with like, so I have these like patches all along my wall. So yeah, buying a home, it's hard. Like, do you want the new home?
And it's hard to even know what to look at as far as like, Geo had investment properties, so as far as like we're a little, we have an upper hand as far as knowing what to look for, what would cost a lot of money to fix, and repairs, and what we're willing to and not. So again, everything that's been a failure is actually a learning curve. Like, so as far as that, I think we're in a pretty good space as far as like what to look at in buying a house if we weren't going to build, which again, we're still kind of just like,
it's all up in the air right now because everything's so insane.
Yeah. But I really do want to start making more things, like instead of buying. But like we talked about last week about picky kids, like if I were to, well, actually, you know, I've made bread a few times, or different kinds of bread, and they're always like, yes, oh, I love it, it's so good. So if I were to start like baking our own things versus buying in store, which that's kind of something I have to just like pull the trigger on, because I feel like
you just have to commit to it, man. Because like the sourdough starter, when we tried it, I mean,
I wish I could get starter from somewhere else.
You can,
like someone else.
You can get freeze dry starter. Well,
is that
we can like? Did we talk? We were gonna lean into the ballerina farm thing, the whole controversy. Did you read about it? Did you see about it?
I did a little bit. What is the controversy that they actually have money and are
so
simple living?
We'll talk, as far as alternative lifestyle, if you guys, I'm sure you've heard, but if you haven't heard about ballerina farms,
me, I haven't.
She hasn't. It's this farm, this woman who like, she has social media, like a ton of followers on TikTok and Instagram. She just had her 8th kid, and she just
that's what I don't want about alternative living. Like, that's it. Stop knocking me out.
I think they're Mormon though, and they both come from Mormon families who both have a lot of kids. So that was like something that her and her husband both really liked, that they came from big families, so they wanted that.
I mean, yeah, I think people have those like kind of things, but that's not what I'm going to be doing.
Right. So she just had her 8th baby, and she also competed in Mrs. America. So there's a couple things that are quote unquote controversial. I'll just put it out there. I don't think it's controversial.
So far what I read, I don't.
I'll tell you my thoughts, and here's
what's
the whole thing.
Controversy.
So the controversy is that it's detrimental or unhealthy to the average woman to be putting out there that in 12 days postpartum you're competing in a pageant. Well, because they're like, it's not realistic, and that like
for most people
that sets these
it's the same thing as Kate Middleton leaving the hospital with her hair done, and
right. It's
it's the same kind of thing.
So people are saying, well, that's not good. That doesn't send a good message to the average woman. Like, people were commenting, like, can't we just normalize, like,
It's also
not
not
doing
her fucking
anything
job,
12
and that's
days?
not her platform.
Right.
And but honey, you're in the wrong spot if you knew that's what she was interested in when you followed her.
Yeah, so she made the commitment to be in this pageant. So yes, she had a baby, but she made the commitment to be in this pageant. So she did what she had to do to be ready for the pageant. Is that everyone's plan? No. But so then the other thing that this is the bigger controversy, is that her husband is an heir because his father owns JetBlue and a couple other airlines. So they're loaded. So people are like, well, she's out here like running a farm because she has the means to do that. Yeah, it costs a lot of money to run a farm. And don't act like if you didn't have that access, you wouldn't do it too. Like, people are like,
yeah, so that's basically what I read online, and I'm like, where the fuck is the controversy?
So the controversy is that, like,
is a rich person living like they're fucking rich? What are you guys mad about?
They're like, they're making their own, they're living more modestly, they're living a more simple life. Yes, they're teaching their kids how to run a farm. They're running just because the father
Don't you wish that other rich people would be doing those things?
Like, the Kardashians are out here just buying shit and having lavish parties and like flaunting their money. These people aren't flaunting their money. They're investing it into a farm. They're employing local people to help run the farm with them.
Something
They're
about
teaching their kids responsibility.
The stove that she had was
it's like $500,000 or something, or 50,000.
I saw 30, but
oh, that maybe I'm wrong.
Because she bought it secondhand or some shit. But I think, yeah, maybe it is more expensive. I mean, obviously, if it's new, it's more expensive. But like, people were jumping on that too, and it's like, I think that
but she never once acted like she was poor or tried to hide that she had that stove.
Right. It's not like you guys uncovered a secret. I'm sorry. This is one of those stories to me that is like, you're trying to find a problem where there's like.
No, she's a business. It's a business. They send out their starter. So they send out sourdough starter. They freeze dry it and you can buy it. They also send out baked goods. I think you can buy their meat. Like, I think I saw someone review it. Like, the shipping is like $70 just for the shipping. So it's a little outrageous.
Yeah.
But they're a brand. And just because her husband has money doesn't mean that they shouldn't start their own. Like, they're investing that money into their own thing, and to make it something for their kids.
Yeah. And I mean, that's not what I thought we were getting into. I thought there was going to be like, she was like slave laboring her 8 kids.
No, she's fine. People just bitch about everything. Like, they can't just let people live.
Listen, you guys are salty because everyone's trying to make their own sourdough right now, and that shit's fucking hard. I'm going to tell you what, I had like a little competition going on because there was like 5 or 6 people, Brittany included, that were doing the sourdough thing, and only one of those people ended up even making a fucking loaf of bread because they got their starter from someone else.
Yeah, I was trying to make my own starter, and I was also trying to make 2 at a time because each of my kids wanted their own.
And that's what you guys are mad about. Let this bitch live. Why are we not mad about Taylor Swift using her fucking jet for like...
I'm not hating on Taylor Swift.
I mean, you know what I mean? I know you guys are going to come for me for this, but I like things that are actually mattering. Like, she's... I mean, I don't know. I don't see what the problem is.
There's literally no problem with this family.
So you're mad. We're mad because she's rich.
They're saying
they were born into money.
She's portraying an image that isn't realistic.
I want to say though, like, did she ask you to
make
start
those
living
assumptions?
Like that? Did she ask you to start living like that? Did she try to recruit anybody?
Yeah, that's like, people are like, well, it's not realistic. Like, to have 8 kids, to make the bread, to make the food, to run the farm.
So you're mad she's living her lifestyle,
which is what you want to do.
It's not realistic for you to live that lifestyle, bitch.
That's basically what the problem is. That's what all these women are like, well, it's not realistic.
Some entitlement issues.
Because, like, no, it's not realistic for me with my 2 kids and my barely surviving month to month because we make just enough money to pay our bills.
Let me rewrite the controversy here. We're going to rewrite it where it was. Okay, so she came on social media and told the story. I'm saying this is completely made up, and this is what would be considered controversial. So she starts her Instagram, and they're living in a 1-bedroom apartment and already have 3 of those kids. And then they say that they're going to live like a minimalistic lifestyle to save up to buy the farmland, and then sold her eggs to come up with the $80,000 to start that farm, and then somehow came up with enough money to build that house, and they were completely self-started. And then 5 or 10 years on her 8th kid, while she was doing that pageant, it came out that his dad...
Yeah, but that's
not what happened.
That's not what happened. Exactly. Like,
so
that would be a controversy if she was lying to you, but she's not. She never once said she was poor, and she never tried to hide it.
She's not acting like poor. She's a rich person and acting like a rich person.
Yeah, she's just living a more simple lifestyle. And what's wrong with wanting a more simple lifestyle for your kids?
More simple, living in a big house with a $30,000 oven means that those kids are having... Simple, I think, might be the wrong word here. I think that
they're living a more simple lifestyle because they're out on the... they work on the farm.
A more...
slow-paced.
What is it called? Like a more fucking Christ, like basic and simple are the wrong words, I feel like, but I feel like it might be less modern even then, though, having like the $30,000 stove, you know what I mean? But I mean,
but it's
like,
a Dutch oven,
rustic, like
it is more rustic.
Like, I mean,
you can tell
it's just
they are living that aesthetic. Like everything's much more rustic there.
Yeah, but you also do, you still have the money, and I'm sure those kids are not like needing for anything.
No, they're not struggling. No, not at all.
So, I mean, there's nothing controversial here.
No, not at all. I just think that like there's nothing wrong with wanting it. Like they used to live in New York. They didn't hide that either. They lived in New York City. They were city people. They didn't hide that. Like
this is a Karen situation to me.
She said we were living in New York City, and she said her husband looked at her one day and was like, they were on the subway, I think, and she was just like, we don't want to do this anymore. So they decided to buy farmland so they could have a different lifestyle for their kids. Yeah. Which is, there's nothing wrong with that.
There's no, I mean.
So anyway, back to alternative lifestyles.
I was hoping that I just couldn't find.
You wanted there to be more juicy details? Sorry to let you down.
She's like, did you hear about the ballerina farm? I was
I felt like it could tie into our alternative lifestyle episode.
I was like, I haven't.
Tell me.
And I thought that there was going to be like a wormhole to go down, but there
nothing.
There wasn't.
It's like personal opinion, and most people are making a big deal out of nothing. It sounded like
it was going to be the ballerina farm. I thought there was going to be bodies.
Because she's a Juilliard ballerina. That's weird.
I thought they were going to be like selling meat, and the meat wasn't going to actually only be cow meat. It was
actually the meat of ballerinas.
That there was going to be like...
They slaughtered old retired dancers in their backyard.
That's where I'm going. Actually, you want to hear the funniest thing? So my husband... So if you guys don't know, I'm really heavy into like Crime Junkie and like all kinds of like murder mystery kind of things, and that's just always been like my comfort area.
Yeah.
So like we just, that's always like kind of on like cold case files and all of that. So my husband's team that he runs at work like had 2 or 3 analysts that were out sick, and his like right hand man was out sick, who is actually a woman, but whatever. So he got a text message, and she called him Giovanni, and she always calls him Gio, and then was like, I'm going to be out sick for another day. I just want to let you know whatever it is. And he was like, okay, no problem. And she said, thank you, heart. And he said, and I was like, you think? And he's like, her husband killed her and is trying to cover it up right now because she doesn't call me Giovanni. And the heart? And I was like, okay, so this is what we have to do. You need to get her on the phone. She's like, because I'm thinking that like the husband has the phone and like he doesn't. I mean, I don't know. And I'm like, yeah, so you just need to like get someone to call her and hear her voice. But if it keeps being husband, that's a major red flag. And he's like, I'm mad that I'm even thinking about this because this is all we watch. And I'm like, but here's the thing. I mean, in a situation like that, yeah, that is weird. So he's like, in what I want to think is that like her husband, she's sick. So she had her husband text for her. And you know, that's what he came up with. And I'm like, yeah, but like it always starts off with like, but you know, we had nothing to really be worried about, but you find out something like this happened and there is actually like a missing person, you know what I mean? And so yeah, yesterday he was like, oh, she came back to work.
She's not dead.
Okay, yeah, so nothing crazy happened, but yeah, that's the mindset that we automatically go into. But I just want to make like the announcement that if you feel like something could be a little bit off, even if nothing is really off, that it's not weird to want to check up on something like that, right?
Right.
Is that an unpopular thought? Or like, I feel like we live in a time but where like it always starts off, or there's a lot of times where it's like, yeah, we didn't really know that. I mean, there was no red flags, but yeah. Then
I don't know. I've been watching a lot of documentaries, not about murders, but I've been watching like the Natalia Grace, Curious Case of Natalia Grace. Have you seen that one?
I don't know. What's the story? Because I watched so many that they all kind of really do run together.
She's a little person, and the family accused her of being like, the family had her re-aged because they adopted her from the Ukraine, and they were convinced that but you have to watch the documentary.
I saw it on Netflix, but I didn't start doing it.
So yes, our brains automatically sometimes go to like worst case scenario, but in the case of the ballerina farm,
there was none. There was actually just, there wasn't even like, that wasn't even like cold brew tea. There was no tea there.
No tea.
Hold on, let me check my list of alternative lifestyles.
What about like living life on the road?
Oh yes, that's actually my number one.
Like living in a camper.
That's the first one.
A van or like the
tour bus things. So we've talked about, especially during COVID, that instead of buying a house, we were going to spend that money on like an RV. And since the kids were remote, Gio was remote, and they said that like where he was working at the time, there was never going to be like an in-person job again. Like they just sold that building and it went fully remote. Mm-hmm. He was like, hey, do you want to? So this one was actually his idea. And it was after the Texas move idea. So I had already gotten into the mindset of like not being around family and having to just really mom and dad the hell out of a situation. And I was like, you know what? The idea of always being in a new location, new like seasons and
acclimating all over again.
That sounds fun. So yeah, we really like we started like pricing out things and like where we gonna put things in storage to like come back to and like what would we have to like keep and what kind of storage solutions like on like these RVs like could there be, so that we would have all kinds of different like snow attire and also like beach attire, and like what kind of like things could we actually like bring with us. So yeah, that's something that I still don't think that I'm 100%
I don't think I could do it long term. Like it would have to only be for like a year or two. Years,
yeah. I definitely don't think that would be like our end all be all, because like
some people do it though. They love it. They homeschool their kids,
and that was another thing we've thought about homeschooling. But I know 100% I am not like I need too many breaks for my kids. That like if they weren't doing an online homeschooling, that I would have to actually like be the teacher. I don't think that I'm the kind of person that I could find that fulfilling. So if we were going to do the homeschooling, we would be doing the online homeschooling where the curriculum would already be written, right, and there would be like an online teacher kind of
instructor,
person, right? Yeah. Also though, like I don't think that now would be a good idea because of the kind of like hands-on intervention Eden needs for his autism. And then just also where Eli is, like I just feel like we're like kind of in the space now in where we're living that like I don't think that we're in a space that it would make sense for us to do that. And like right now I feel I'm really comfy, and this goes back to not wanting to move out of state because I'm comfy. Like I think we're in a good school system, and like when Eden was younger, he started kindergarten in one district, and then he finished kindergarten in another district, and then he started first grade in that same kindergarten district. But then we moved to where we currently are now, and he finished first grade, and then like since first grade he's now in sixth in the same district, and now Eli has started kindergarten in the same district. And I just like, I like that we're in the same area, right?
You're
and that kind of goes, yeah, but that's like the same thing as like having to like giving your kids a home, right, in the same place. It's like, but mine's not like the actual home piece, it's the
but like the hometown
district.
I jumped around. I went from so I had kindergarten, first grade in one school, and then second, third, and fourth in another elementary school, and then fifth in another elementary school, then middle school and high school were the same. But I did move again multiple, like within that time frame. I moved like 3 times in high school, 2 or 3 times from middle school to high school, like just different locations.
I had the same house, the same school district from the time that I really like ever even started school. Like my parents moved into the house that I grew up in when my sister had just turned 1, right? So like we don't really know like another school district or whatever or house until we were 16, and my parents decided to split up, and then that's when the hopping around started happening. But by that point I had already dropped out of school. So like it didn't really like mean a thing. But I mean, like if I said that I didn't always think about going back to that house that now doesn't even look like the same house or any of the things, I would be lying. And I mean, I kind of want to have that for my kids, but I want where we end up to be where we end up,
right,
at least while the kids are living at home.
Yeah, I can see that. What about like the nomadic lifestyle? But it was something different. Damn it. Oh, I know
buying and
our brains are like
buying a house today and fixing it up while you're living it in, and flipping. That's something also that we've thought about. And I mean, because Gio has had investment properties, and
can he buy an investment property and I will flip it for him? And then we'll like get into business together flipping houses, because I would fucking love that.
And yeah, that, I mean, yeah, that's something that I've wanted to do. And so
tell him we'll do it.
Right now, I think we want to live somewhere, but I mean, like, he is always really heavily on the idea, like, that he wants to buy, like, a multifamily, and whether that be a 2, 3, 6 unit multifamily. But, like, my thing is, I think that, yeah, or at least that's going to be, like, our start thing. But, like, what I don't want to do is I am just like, I feel like I'm really not even in the place that I want to like share walls with anybody.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they say, so if your first buy is an investment property, that it really just makes overall more sense financially and in equity and where you go forward, that it's going to make more sense in all aspects to that be what it is.
Yeah.
But I don't know that we necessarily, or at least like if he's going to get me in any kind of mindset or where I want to be just like in any investment property, that like I don't think that I want to be, that's where I want to be living, right? So because then again, I think that really just comes down to like where we're going to, how much we're going to have to uproot the kids. And if that were to ever come a investment property, that there would be like a partner situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so it's not going to be completely 100% out of the realm of possibility, but I think, yeah, if there was
another hyper fixation for alternative living that I have jumped on is moving to another country. I fully invested on moving to Greece. Like, what?
We've also thought about it too, and in the COVID Trump era of the United States, I don't think we're 100% out of. Yeah, that was.
We're not.
Also something
I just feel like I've watched like other families on social media, like on TikTok or YouTube. Like I found a couple of families who have done it, not just Greece, but like other countries. My sister-in-law lives in Italy.
I was gonna say, or a dual citizenship.
She's dual citizenship. So she and her husband and their daughter live in Italy. He plays basketball professionally, and they're in Italy half of the year, and they come to the United States for like a few months at a time in the summer. But like their just way of living is just so much more, it's slower, it's more simple, and And they even just have access to things that I feel like the farmers markets and like the daily shopping and like the food is healthier.
I think like I feel like we've kind of touched on this before, that the American dream and what the United States initially started off as like the running from the British government and wanting the kind of every man to have more for himself and that kind of thing. I think the
American dream's kind of dead.
We done fucked up.
We sure did.
It's just not even that anymore. And I feel like that we're in such a place, not even only ways of living, the financial.
People just want more and the best of the best.
We're not going anywhere. It's just like we're not on top for anything other than our military. And
yeah, but like the fact that we're just unhealthy, like that in itself, like the food that we even have access to is just like so bad for you.
And again, and I think that just really comes down to, are there a whole bunch of additives into really anything, in everything that we have? Yeah. Do they all really need to be there? No. But what does it come down to? Money.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm going to start a new cupcake brand and I know that my friend Sal has stakes in a company that is an additive or owns an additive, am I going to be like, hey, so I'm starting this cupcake company. Me, Jim, and Larry, I know that we all have stakes in this company for this additive, but there's not necessarily, there's not going to be anything bad, good, sideways, others, or for things. Why don't you just, come on over here, add your additive?
Yeah.
And what does it always just come down to? Money.
Mm-hmm.
Is it really going to do anything? No. Is it necessary? Also no. And I just think that's just going to always be.
Yeah. I just think that like, yeah, the American dream is just totally changed, and people are looking for I think that a lot of people are looking for alternative ways of living.
Yeah, we're 100% not it. But I also do think, I don't know if I've ever said this here. So I don't know if this originally started like as a Hindu thing or whatever, but there will be like a 12-year period, right? And that's like where it all just really falls and collapses, and where there will be a paradigm shift. And I think
we're in the process.
Yeah, we're in that. So I want to say that we're going to be going into the 5-year of the 12-year thing where it's just all going to really collapse. And I don't think that that's necessarily an only America thing. It's going to be global. So I think at the end of the day, I just, are there better places that if we were going to move or live in a different place, it be better? Some maybe more long term. I don't think that you're ever going to really escape it, right? Globally, right. I think there's going to be a global somehow in any regard. If it's going to be a power collapse, is it going to be whatever? But it's all going to start over, right? In some way. Whether I'm going to say, I don't want to say that it's going to be a full collapse, societal collapse. Is it going to be a technological somehow collapse? But I think that
it'd be amazing if like social media just went away for like 5 years. We had no more communication anymore.
I can't speculate in what I think it's really all going to be. I just think like in some way, I think that we're all going to really have to start over.
There's going to be a huge shift.
Yeah, it's going to be a shift, and there's going to be a start over in some way. And I just think that we really have in a lot of industries, ways, people moving, what will be accepted, not be accepted, and we're just really in it, right? So yeah, things might be getting better. If we're gonna just, the only thing we're gonna worry about is the housing market. No, you're missing it all, right?
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, I feel like we just could really end the episode there, because
we're going through a collapse. Should find an alternative way to live.
It's all gonna end.
Doomsday.
No, and it's not though, because going back to the manifestation episode and all the things, I feel like if you're really gonna get into the that kind of mindset and things, and it's just like we're not even just only spiritually seeing those kind of things. It's more than that, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking wars, people's deaths, illness, and I'm not even gonna say that we're gonna just, it's not all biblical, but just in any way, if you're one of those end all be all things, it's not gonna be the whole world exploding. It's a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
I don't think the world's ending. I just think the world as we know,
the world as we know it,
right?
Is,
yeah, we're there. We're in it.
Definitely something else happening. Sorry, I was playing with my microphone.
That's okay. I've been all day. All right, so like, follow, go, do all things on socials. If you're watching this on YouTube, hey, subscribe.
Do it.
Thanks.
Bye.